My name is Rae-Yen Song, and I'm an artist based in Glasgow. I grew up in Edinburgh. I studied at Glasgow School of Art, and that's about it. So the work, the title of the work, it's is made up of 4 characters, and those characters symbolize the architecture of the space. And that space is made up of a head, a body, bones and organs that kind of describes a distant being that's kind of part remembered and part imagined. And it's this kind of floating idea of my maternal grandfather. And I think of the space as a sort of temple built from memories, ancestral stories, and family treasures. And it honors a distant but ongoing journey. So these stories have come from my mother and conversations with my mother and her memory of her childhood and growing up and her father. And through these conversations with her, I've had this imagined dialogue with my long departed grandfather, and kind of imagining him as this being from another time and place. And yeah, my conversations with him, which address crossing, migration, loss, and labor. The way these conversations have unfolded, they're really fragmented, just in the way that memory is. So the only way that I've been able to learn about my grandfather has been through a very non-linear kind of picking up of pieces and joining them together and kind of imagining from that. And that's echoed through the making of the work, which kind of reveals and abstracts itself through drawings and through materials and sounds and smells. And yeah, bit by bit, they kind of morph and grow together to form this body, this architecture. Yeah. And sort of that sense of picking up these pieces and these memories and infilling it with my own sort of imagination, or filling in those gaps, I guess as a way of ownership, as a way of understanding and answering things for myself, and telling a sort of future story for families kind of beyond. I find it hard to talk about as well because it's, everything is so non-verbal and unknown and not fixed that for me to use words to describe it almost gives a permanence on it. So it's the very nature of it doesn't want to be described. So moments like this, I find it difficult. But there's that, I guess I see that beauty in things constantly evolving and things being able to morph into whatever it wants to be or needs to be. And that reflects on maybe how I want to be, like I would like things to be. The way I work is so visual, and it works, and it speaks in a kind of non-conventional language. It has a language of its own that has a multitude of meanings. And so to use, for instance, the English, well, the language that I know, which is English, is to kind of, I feel like it would sort of compromise it, or there would be a lack of something. I would like to explore linguistics one day, maybe, if I have the brain space for it. But to create my own language around it, or a written language, let's say, to write something down, that'd be quite nice to explore, to create some sort of codex. So the sound also feeds in with the whole architecture of it being a body. I imagine there's this, I feel like the body is almost like floating and journeying somewhere. And so there's this this sound of breathing, and it feels like you're moving or swaying with it. And then there's a call to attention with this these resonating gong noises almost, that would bring you to the head of the space where you're kind of enclosed and you feel, I don't know, you're like, yeah, you're almost like this little critter in something. Well, that's how I feel. And you're called to watch, or you're surrounded by this animation that is in the center of that head. It first came about in drawing, so a lot of my work revolves around drawing, and I guess that is the foundational tool I use in my practice. A lot of my thinking is through drawing, so again, that in a way is not through a conventional written language, but it's through imagery and how and those symbols and what they mean to me. And then that is translated into a lot of different materials, and they sort of grow in different sizes. And yeah, they it's that idea of looking at something so small and intricate and using my hands to make that, and being obsessed by it, and kind of trying to bring in all the care and attention and knowledge and lack of information that I've gathered from these sort of familial memories and stories, and bringing them into physical being. Well, yeah, there are certain aspects in the work that, in this whole space, that I see as, I guess, artifacts, and it being, I guess, a sacred space. There's this, I see it all within this alternate dimension. That's private, yet very public at the same time, but it's private to me. And within the sacred space, I guess in thinking about this work, I was looking at a lot of religious architecture and ancient religions, and a lot of kind of sacred spaces throughout history. And that idea of, I guess what I took from it was what you feel from material and from textures, and how things have been, things beyond you, or are made to, I don't know, you feel so small within it, but also it's very comforting. There's like a silence that you enter, and you're part of that silence, and vulnerability, and yeah, there are these details that I've, through kind of labor and through drawing and through just my hands thinking and making, it brings about this imagined character that I sort of think of as my grandfather, and kind of echoes throughout the whole space, and sort of, yeah, the journey that he took and the labor that he had to, the journey that he took, and kind of surviving, and the labor that he went through. I kind of, in a way, maybe the way I kind of think about his life is perhaps through like the labor and the making of these artworks, or using these materials. It allows me to kind of think in a very kind of felt way, like what his experience is, and the things he was doing with his hands.